Hey, this is John Fernay, the co-host of the Maryland Crabs, and I am here today with a Maryland crab cake for your listening pleasure. What's a crab cake? It's not quite a full episode, it's just a little snippet. Stay tuned and check it out. And make sure you check us out on themarylandcrabs.com. You can follow us on Twitter at MD Crabs Podcast, or find us on Facebook at the Maryland Crabs Podcast. And don't forget, subscribe, rate us, iTunes. Go there now. We're over here in Petworth in Washington, D.C., and this is actually, our third episode with the National Cannabis Festival and Caroline Phillips, who is the executive director, founder, chief cleanup, the fairgrounds kind of person at the end and keep everybody in line.
Truer than you know. It is the third year, and I'm really glad that you made the trip all the way to Petworth and DC today.
Well, one year we did it in Annapolis. Another year we met in the middle. We were at the Bowie Bay Sox Stadium.
Yes, I remember that.
And then now I figured, hey, it was only fair that I would come on out to DC, and I am just praying to God I didn't get nailed on a red light camera or a speed camera on the way up here, but we'll see that. We'll see in about 2 weeks whether
if not that, you probably got hit for parking outside, but we'll find out soon.
Absolutely. Well, we want to talk about the National Cannabis Festival, which is coming into, I say town, but into Washington, D.C. at the RFK Stadium grounds on April 18th, 2020. And this is your fifth iteration of this?
It's our fifth. We have a kindergartner now. We have a 5-year-old festival.
Oh, my gosh.
It's pretty wild.
Each year, I love to see how much more it gets. And it's great. A little bit later on today, what we do is we want to talk to a couple dispensaries. We want to talk to Lucas Hale, which is with Curaleaf, and that's a national company that is in like a dozen states, and they grow it, they process it, and they dispense it.
Right.
And they distribute it actually too, I believe. And then getting out of that whole corporate environment, we want to talk with Warren Lemley, who is the founder and the president of a dispensary, an independently owned dispensary in Rockville called Peake Releaf, and that's PeakeReleaf, because that's just what you guys do.
Yeah, and it's a nice opportunity to hear from, a larger company and a smaller company and the different challenges they face and the opportunities this year. It's exciting.
The National Cannabis Festival has grown from a festival into, I almost say it's more advocacy than it is partying. I mean, you got to have a party to get people out there and, and dance and groove and have and everything else. And you do such a wonderful job with that. But in advance of the festival, on Friday the 17th, you've got the Policy Summit, which you've had now for 3 years.
This is the third year for the summit, too. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. With the festival, you're right. We are trying to really help people understand what's going on with cannabis laws. But sort of like those old Rock the Vote concerts that MTV used to throw, we know that by having things like music and fun things for people to do, we can get more people in the door to learn how they can be active in their communities to make better laws. The Policy Summit we introduced 3 years ago for a couple of reasons. We wanted to put together an event that was a bit more welcoming to lawmakers to come and speak to our audience. We do have some lawmakers and some members of Congress that come and speak at the actual festival.
Right.
But we realized we could get even more if we gave them some kind of familiar territory to tread. So the summit is a full-day event. It is free, open to the public with RSVP, so you just have to go on the National Cannabis Festival website and register. And it's a full day of discussions. You'll hear from members of Congress, you'll hear from experts from think tanks, and we'll be covering a lot of issues around cannabis that you will be hearing about leading up to the election.
Well, that's essentially what's sort of funny is if you want to see your congressman in a suit and tie, you come out on Friday. If you want to see him in a Bob Marley shirt, you come out on Saturday.
Exactly.
On the Policy Summit, first of all, the irony is not lost on me that it's being held in the Ronald Reagan building.
I mean, can you even believe it?
Just say no.
Just say no to the drug war.
Absolutely. But I was looking at some of the topics that are going to be covered, and they're absolutely fascinating. As you said, they're leading up into the election. And this is a very, very important year for any number of reasons. I mean, you've got a lot of congressmen that are up for re-election. You've got a lot of senators that are up for the re-election. We've got a president that's up for re-election. And it's a conversation that's going to be happening. And it's something that you need to talk to your local congressmen, your local senators, and find out exactly where they stand on it. Because this is, interesting. I mean, one of the topics you're talking about, how it interacts with legalization, immigration reforms. And I mean, this is something that, as I sit here in Maryland, I think, what the hell does cannabis have to do with what's going on
Right.
down across the border.
I mean, so no, this is a really interesting topic to me. This was something that I thought, is this something people will be interested in? But if you think about it, it's similar to what's happening in our cities in the United States. We have police forces out there trying to do their job, which unfortunately right now in many places is still to arrest people for cannabis. Well, if they're arresting that person over there for cannabis, guess what they're missing? Possibly the violent crime happening across the street. So, we're living in interesting times right now. I think there's been a lot of fear mongering around immigration, but this is, I think that, yeah, I know. But, I think that for people on both sides of the aisle, like, let's have our Customs and Border Patrol people not looking for cannabis, but let's look for things that really hurt people.
Right. Did you find the guy smoking a joint behind someplace, or did you find him beating up a woman?
Right.
Or another thing that you're talking about is just the level of legalization. I mean, in Maryland, we've got medical marijuana.
Correct.
In DC, it's pseudo-recreational.
Yeah, we have have adult use, and then we have a medical program. And in Virginia, they are starting to have a medical program. And it looks like they very recently decriminalized possession of certain amounts of cannabis. So that is all moving in the right direction. But yeah, for companies operating in this space, it can be a little bit tricky. First of all, for a multi-state operator like Curaleaf, who we'll be talking to later, in no two states do they have the same rules of operation for their dispensaries.
I can't imagine the headaches that are associated
just
with.
nuts, yeah. And then, let's say you own an ancillary business, and ancillary businesses are non-plant touching businesses. So maybe it's a light company or a nutrient company. But, even there, state to state, you may go into one state and they have outdoor grow, and go into another state and you can only grow indoors. So that changes your strategy.
It's funny you talk about ancillary businesses. I have a friend of mine that we were talking about the cannabis industry. He says, "Oh yeah, I'm into it in a big way." I'm like, "Really? I mean, what are you growing? Or he says, no, I'm making plastic bags to package edibles."
Brilliant.
And I'm like going, "Dude, that's awesome." And again, that's all he's doing. He's looking to, I guess they've got to be sterile and they've got to be, whatever and whatnot. But that's all he does. And I'm sure there's printing on it and stuff like that. I'm like, this is great. You look at Brand Joint, which is a marketing firm in Annapolis that, with Peppermill Projects, they turned around, they said, we've got this opportunity here. And we don't want to necessarily bring it in under our regular brand, not for any stigma or anything like that. But what does Peppermill Projects speak to the cannabis industry?
Right.
Brand Joint certainly does.
And I remember when I first met Jen as Peppermill Projects, and I was trying to figure out what that was and what it might have to do with cannabis. And then she rebranded to Brand Joint, and I was like, I get it now.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. And I mean, maybe right now there is a plumber listening right now who's thinking to himself, well, what does my skill set have to do with the cannabis industry? I guarantee you that when we have federal legalization, there are going to be people growing hydroponically that will need people with a specific set of skills to be able to come in and figure out what's happening in their pipes and to fix things really fast. I mean, there really isn't an area of expertise that doesn't potentially touch this industry. And that's what's exciting.
The potential is huge. And you look at hemp. Okay, and you've got the whole CBD and which is absolutely just boomed since 2018 in the passage of the Farm Bill that declassified hemp as a category 1 or class,
it made hemp. You can now ship hemp from state to state. All kinds of stuff is happening.
Which is, there's an industry that didn't exist in 2017. And now we've got 4 dedicated CBD product stores in Annapolis.
Right.
And probably another 15 or so that have CBD products for sale within their inventory. I just am waiting for the cannabis industry to get to that point.
I want it to get to that point, but I also think that we need to be cautious because I think the boom that we've seen of CBD has been great as far as education and public information goes. But I think it's been a little bit less than great when we're seeing so many products come to the market at once. And we're still learning about this plant and we don't have that scientific testing yet. So, I would really advise people that when they're going out to look for their CBD products, that they ask questions. Does this CBD product contain any percentage of THC? Some do, and there's some people out there who believe that for CBD to truly work, it needs to have a little bit of THC. But really go, ask questions. Ask if the CBD that you're looking to buy is hemp-derived or THC-derived. Ask where it was grown. It's a lot like going into a grocery store and wanting to know, or going to your farmer's market and wanting to know where your produce was sourced.
Yeah. And CBD, I mean, that is a derivative of hemp, correct?
It's
And
from the cannabis plant. Yeah.
okay. But it does not have the THC in its pure form. Does that make sense?
So you can extract, CBD from the cannabis plant, and then it is in the form of CBD. There are a lot of people who believe that for CBD to truly work inside your body's endocannabinoid system, that you need a small percentage of THC so it can really bond.
Okay.
But yeah, right now, a lot of people are using CBD for chronic pain, for inflammation. And then I even know some people who are just starting to take CBD supplements daily just for their general health. So there's a lot more to learn about this substance. But I do think it's a positive thing. And I'm really glad that people are starting to read up and learn more about CBD as an alternative to, tons of pharmaceuticals.
One of the things that is amazing to me is that the states are moving toward legalization of marijuana. In whatever baby steps they're doing. But we have so little research on it. And it's this catch-22 that it's illegal on the federal level. It's still classified, so that we can't do these cannabis studies. We can't really do the studying until we're putting the cart before the horse and the cart before the, so that's one thing that I would hope that our legislatures could do and figure out a way to get at least testing underway.
Right.
Okay, so we can have a solid test from, whether it be the Mayo Clinic or wherever it may be, to sit there and say, hey, we've got 12,000 people that we've tested cannabis on, and it has relieved the symptoms of whatever disease it may be. And, whether it's 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever, it doesn't matter. But I mean, that's something that we don't have that we really, I think, desperately need.
We really do need scientific testing. So right now, cannabis is listed as a Schedule I drug, which means it is listed alongside things like heroin.
Yeah, just like heroin.
Just like heroin, right. I think that we can all agree that cannabis and heroin aren't the same. But right now, we have really limited opportunities to learn the full potential for this plant. And you think about populations like veterans, for example, and how the VA is so hesitant to allow cannabis as an option because they haven't seen the testing. It would be an incredible benefit and an incredible harm reduction step for the federal government to legalize cannabis, allow us to have that testing, and allow the FDA or a similar body to get involved so that we have uniform rules, and so that when you go into a dispensary in one state, you can be certain that the same pesticide that you've been trying to avoid in Massachusetts is not going to be in your cannabis in Arizona.
Right.
And that's so important right now.
Well, and the cannabis industry is that it is so regulated. And I jokingly said that I went back in high school. I would go into New York City and I would buy a pin joint off of anybody underneath a bridge in Central Park. I knew about 19 different doormen that could, score whatever they wanted. And I'm real hesitant today because, whether it's pesticides or whatever may be in there. I mean, you sit there and you hear about, let's move into the heroin thing. But I mean, you think you may be buying heroin, but you may be getting fentanyl, and all of a sudden, you're dead. And I don't think that's the situation.
Well, you even think about like the vaping crisis.
Yes.
If we had legal cannabis in all 50, I'll say 51 states because DC should be a state. But if we had legal cannabis in all states, the mystery around the vaping crisis would have been solved very quickly. We would have understood if the damaged cartridges were coming from medical sources or from illicit sources, and we would have been able to very quickly figure out the source. But because of this, strange system of states legalizing cannabis without the federal government's approval, we're actually creating a public health hazard, and that's the federal government's fault.
Wow, I didn't perceive that. Well, I'll tell you, the policy summit, April 17th, gets underway at 9 a.m.
9 a.m., about 9 to 5. Come in and out all day. We are right in the Ronald Reagan building, which should be fun. It's right by the White House and the mayor's office, so if you're coming in from Maryland, you can make a whole day of it. But it's a full day of discussions. All of our advocacy partners will be there, including NORML, Maryland NORML, DC NORML, Marijuana Policy Project, the Drug Policy Alliance, So a lot of the groups have been pushing progress on these laws for decades now.
And you do have some legislators that are pro,
yes, absolutely,
pro cannabis that will be there speaking.
And actually,
the
mayor of DC will be opening the summit this year, which is really exciting.
Oh, so, that's very neat.
We're excited to have her with us.
That's very neat. But you do need to register online.
Register
you want to
online.
go to nationalcannabisfestival.com.
Yes.
And there's a big link up at the top page, probably about 2/3 away from the left. It says Policy Summit. Go
Correct.
down there, and that's will take you right to what you need to do. Just register, and you're in and learn. And I do recommend, I mean, if you're curious about medical marijuana, if you're curious about recreational use, if you're curious just about cannabis in general, go check this out. There's going to be more information. Your head's going to come out swimming, and you're going to know a hell of a lot more than you did when you walked in the door at 9 a.m. in the morning. That's for sure.
And if you do make the trip into the city, stick around that night and then join us at the festival the next day. A lot more education and information being shared, slightly different format. So a lot of fun.
You mean Method Man and Red Man aren't going to be
they'll be
at
dropping
the
knowledge
Summit?
all day. Method Man, Red Man. It's going to be a really great year. But yeah, we're super excited about Saturday.
Well, I'll tell you, the festival is Saturday the 18th. It gets underway at noon. That's when the gates open up.
High noon.
Oh, very, very.
Sorry, see,
yeah,
funny.
That's damn puns again. Gets me every time. And it has a hard curfew of 8 p.m.
Hard curfew of 8 p.m.
Is that you or is that the city?
That's the city, but it makes sense. The festival takes place on a beautiful grassy field. It's adjacent to a neighborhood. I think that the cannabis community gets enough flack from people, who
you bunch
all
of
kinds
weed
of things.
smoking kids.
Exactly. So we
Get
are
off my lawn.
We are happy to end early enough to make sure that everybody in the community can go to bed without being bothered by noise or attendees walking back to their vehicles or the metro.
And the 20,000 people that are there can all go and have dinner at one of the great restaurants in D.C.
I like to think that DC restaurants see a serious spike around 8 p.m. on the Saturday that the festival takes place.
You should look into that.
I should. I think I'm going to pull a few this year.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about the festival. Okay,
Yeah.
we talked. It's the 18th. It gets underway at noon, high noon. Pardon me.
Yes.
As with any festival, it's got music.
Yes.
You've got Method Man and Red Man.
Red Man. We have Young MA, who's really, really becoming a big deal right now. We have Anti-Ballas. We have Backyard coming back for the 5th straight year. They're sort of, I like to think, our house go-go band. And go-go just became the official music of
saw
DC
that.
like
I
yesterday.
saw that.
Yeah, so we're stoked to be celebrating DC's official music again. So lots of great local bands also in the music lineup. And the music goes all day from the time the gates open until the time the gates close. So you can set up your lawn chair and just hang out all day. But if you're looking for other things, we also have 4 educational pavilions this year.
And the pavilions are really good. This is for the. I don't know about this whole cannabis, marijuana, weed stuff. Let me go check it out.
Right. So you can walk into the policy pavilion and hear a lot of the same topics you might have heard at the summit, but as explained by activists from our community and experts from the community. We have a culture pavilion where we will be doing things all day. There's going to be a cannabis comedy show. There might even be a puff and paint class. We also have a wellness pavilion where folks can go and hear from dispensary owners, like the folks we'll be talking to later today, learning about the actual process for opening a dispensary and what the day-to-day operations are like. They'll also be able to hear from doctors talking about benefits of CBD and do a little yoga. And then we also this year have our grow school, which we have every year. In Washington, D.C., you are allowed to grow at home. So the grow school will not only offer home growing tips, but we will also have commercial cultivators who will be talking a little bit about what a day in the life for them is like.
Wow.
A couple of things going on.
You can learn there as well.
But there's more.
Okay, go ahead.
We have a seniors lounge this year for our 65 and older guests.
I'm going to say that I'm not qualified to go in there yet, and I'm proud of that right now.
Well,
I did get my AARP
was not
card.
saying that because I thought you were.
I got my AARP card because I got cheaper car insurance.
That's kind of awesome then, right?
I
you
held
have to
off,
take advantage right now.
I held off for a long time, and then finally they said, you can save like 30% on your auto insurance. I said, okay.
Well, we noticed, we'd see online some of our older fans saying, I don't know if this festival is for me. But it is. We have people of all age groups every year, and putting together the senior lounge was sort of our way to signal there is a space for you here. So that space will have refreshments and snacks for free. There will be places to sit down, and hopefully you can network and meet some folks if that's your kind of thing. We also have our Veterans Lounge again this year.
And that's a wonderful thing that you did. I mean, the veterans all have a whole different ball of wax. I mean, we've got so many that are coming back with PTSD, and they've got all sorts of issues. I mean, let's not even touch on the medical issues that our veterans have been suffering from for years and years and years because of, I'm going to get off on a rant, but on the neglect of our government not to provide these guys and gals what they need. And
the idea that they might lose benefits because they choose to use a different medicine it's just nuts.
It's abhorrent. It's abhorrent. But the Veterans Tent is a place for veterans to be able to go in.
Also, free refreshments and snacks, a place to sit down. Last year, we had social workers in the space who were there to just talk if anybody needed to talk or was overwhelmed by the noise. And we give away 200 free tickets every year. And after that, we do have a discount code that will be available on our veterans page on the National Cannabis Festival website. But this year, we're working with the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, which is an organization that, traditionally I don't think people associate with cannabis, but it's an amazing organization providing direct support to a lot of veterans of our younger generations who've come back from overseas and not come back well.
As many of them do.
Right.
Which is just so tough. Some of the other fun stuff that you've got going on there, you've got a Canna Tank, which is sort of Shark Tank meets the National Cannabis Festival.
It's an entrepreneur contest. Applications for Canna Tank close on March the 8th, but there's prize money involved. You get meetings, sit-down meetings with a lot of experts in the industry who can help guide your business forward, and all you need is a 500-word description to enter. We wanted to make it accessible to everyone, and if you can just put your idea into words, you have entered the competition.
So you've got a pitch. Maybe you want to make baggies for, pitch it out. You may get some seed capital and.
That was a good punt. Seed.
Yeah.
Capital.
Oh my God! Look at that! I did it.
They're everywhere. I'm telling you.
I did it. How about that? And the other thing, and I was shocked to learn this year because I didn't realize it happened last year, and. How fun, but you've got the ultimate weed wedding.
Yes. We just announced our wonderful weed wedding couple.
Well, it was Phil and Lisa.
Phil and Lisa, they're the best. They're from D.C.
Wait, they were on this couch, weren't they?
They were on this couch filming their video.
I thought so.
Yeah. They're an amazing, amazing couple, and they will be treated to the ultimate weed weekend of their life. It includes hotel. It includes transportation. They will have their own tented area to hang out with their wedding party, and then we'll get married on the main stage.
Right before Method Man and Rev Man,
I'm wondering, maybe they'll be groomsmen. We'll see. But it's going to be great, and this couple is wonderful.
And they get 10 free tickets for their wedding party and stuff like that to come in too. So it's the real VIP section, real VIPs.
Yes, super VIPs.
That is great. That'll be a lot of fun to watch and.
It's really fun. It's been a great way to get to know some of the cannabis love stories in our community.
This is the second year you're doing this now, right?
Second year of Ultimate Weed Wedding, yeah.
Okay, because I remember when we first talked about it a couple months ago, you said, oh yeah, and the Ultimate Weed Wedding. I'm like, well, back up. Okay, what the hell was that? And it was like, oh my gosh, that's so fun.
Well, then the other new thing that we introduced, because every year we have to, see how much more we can fit into the program, but we are kicking off the National Cannabis Festival Cypher Series, and that is going to be a hip-hop tournament style cypher series that takes place once a week in March leading up to the festival. At each of these cypher tournaments, where people will have these battle rounds to see who the highest MC in the DMV is, we will select 3 winners who will advance to the final rounds at National Cannabis Festival. Then at NCF on 4/18, we will have a final battle round to crown the highest MC in the DMV.
Man,
there's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on.
It's its own little world.
A lot of puns and a lot of acronyms.
There's so many puns, so many.
You can get your tickets at nationalcannabisfestival.com. Again, it's April 18th, 2020 at the RFK Stadium grounds. And they just did a real nice little renovation over there. They did. That's really nice over there.
It's really great. It's wonderful to see them revitalizing that area. It's a great resource for our whole city.
Yeah. Parking is a little bit tight over there. So if you can...
It's going to be tighter this year too, because we have those beautiful new athletic fields now, which have replaced some beautiful tarmac. Yeah, so I do highly, punny, I highly recommend that you take rideshare into the city or metro. It will be much easier. And then you'll get to enjoy all of the things at NCF, like good Red Stripe beer, one of our 70 different food vendors, our Munchies food court. It rivals any food truck festival, I think, at this point.
Yep. And you've got plenty of water there as well.
Plenty of water, and it's free.
Yep. And what I would suggest is if you're coming from Maryland, hit New Carrollton and just metro a couple stops over there, and you're good to go.
It's a really, really smart plan.
And that's free parking on the weekends.
Yeah, and just get off at the Stadium Armory station and follow the signs or the smells.
That's
just follow your nose.
Or your ears.
Or ears.
Or your ears. It starts at noon. And of course, there's going to be a zillion vendors out there.
Yeah,
as well.
we have,
So,
I
you've
think,
got the T-shirts and all the hemp and cannabis products, and as far as not the actual product, but
yeah, like we'll have there will be a lot of bongs, I'm sure. But yeah, we will have all kinds of craft vendors from around the area. There's jewelry. There will be record shops. There will be apparel companies.
All right, record shops.
Yeah.
Do you realize that last year vinyl albums outsold CDs?
Really?
Yeah, isn't that cool?
I did not know that.
Yep.
Well, shout out to Songbird Record House and Music Cafe in DC. They exhibit every year at NCF. So if you are on the festival grounds and looking for some vinyl, Joe and Alicia always pull really great selections, and they always try and pull selections that complement our lineup.
Okay.
So,
very cool.
yeah.
What are some of the do's and the don'ts, real quick?
So dues, bring your government ID. Make
Because
sure
the government needs to know exactly what you're doing, right?
Well, at least we need to know that you're over 21 to get in the festival grounds. If you are in Washington, D.C., you are allowed to bring up to 2 ounces of cannabis with you in public. So you would be allowed to carry that into National Cannabis Festival.
Would you be allowed to smoke it there?
Technically, smoking is not allowed in public in Washington, D.C. right now.
Okay.
I do take the metro or ride share in, and do plan on arriving early if there is a specific act that you would like to see. Something funny that's happened with NCF over the years is we've developed this interesting front gate culture where we have people arriving as early as 7 a.m. to get in line.
Oh, you're like a Dead Show of the 80s.
Right. They hang out all day. You know, they'll spend like 5 hours in this line just like hanging out and meeting people. So, you know, if you want to be there at high noon, I would recommend getting there a little earlier so you can make sure that you slide through the gate quickly. But yes, if there's an act you'd like to see, arrive early. The don'ts. Don't bring a bad attitude. NCF is one of the happiest events
Probably
that
the
I've
biggest
ever
rule.
attended. Exactly. So only good attitudes allowed at NCF. We are a diverse space for all people coming from all places, and we want everybody to feel comfortable at the festival. I would say another do is if you are not in our early entry line to get a tote bag, I would highly recommend bringing a bag.
You should have called it a toke bag.
A tote, that's really good. Oh, you're killing it today.
Come on.
That's
You
really
totally
good.
missed
I totally
that one.
missed that. Yeah, you were right though. That's good. Someone write that down. You know, bring a bag. Like it's always funny to me watching people trying to like walk off the grounds at the end of the day, and you know they came in their shorts and t-shirt, and they're like carrying like a bag of nutrients under one arm, and they have like all these hemp teas under the other arm. They have like 7 t-shirts piled up in front of them.
And a bottle of water.
Bottle of water. So, you know, make sure that you bring something to carry things in and out with, and then be aware of DC laws. You can check them out in the frequently asked questions section on the National Cannabis Festival website. Just go over there, check it out, and make sure that you understand the laws of our city, and you'll have a great day.
Right. No dogs. No pets. Unless they're service dogs.
Animals are allowed, yeah.
Are allowed. So you want to make sure that you do that. No glassware. Which
No
is another-
glassware, yep, and no torches, which might be something that the average festival producer doesn't have to put on their frequently asked questions page, but we'd prefer that you leave your blowtorches at home.
Okay. Very good. Flamethrowers.
No flamethrowers.
No.
Yeah, no.
No weapons.
No weapons.
Knives.
No
nothing?
scythes.
No.
None of that, yeah.
And will you have a big box out front to like drop your bad attitude in before the gate? In case somebody does come with a bad attitude?
Yeah, no, you will leave your bad attitude at the gate. You can pick it up. It'll be right where you left it on the way out. I promise you.
This is great. Well, you get your tickets at nationalcannabisfestival.com. Tickets are on sale right now. They do have is your VIP experience sold out or?
At this point, it is sold out. Yeah, unfortunately, the VIP is sold out. But we have our tickets started at $35 back in December, and they are slowly increasing as we head towards the festival. Right now, they are $55. I would suggest grabbing them before April 1st so that you don't have to deal with any kind of a price increase, and you can save your pennies for all of the food and fun at the festival.
Okay. And just procedurally, I guess the tickets, you can have them right on your phone. You don't need a paper thing to bring to the festival.
Correct. Yeah. You just get scanned at the gate and walk right in.
Fantastic. National Cannabis Festival, April 18th, RFK Stadium grounds. Caroline Phillips, thank you again so much. Thank you for inviting me into this cool new office up in Petworth. And it's I'm sitting on the very couch that Lisa and Phil sat on.
I know.
It just dawned on me because I watched the video and I'm like, wait, that's the curtain they walked through. That's the couch they sat on. This is awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it again, as I am every year. The Ultimate Weed Wedding will be probably my highlight because I missed it last year.
Your highlight. I'm going to stop. Just
okay.
one more. We have to.
Let's just say goodbye.
Okay.
No, I'll tell you. Let's get on the phone right now. We're going to see if we can touch base with Lucas Hale, and then we're going to get in touch with Born Lemley.
That sounds good.
Joining us on the phone right now is Lucas Hale, who is with Curaleaf, which is a vertically integrated cannabis company that has operating in 14 states. They've got 53 dispensaries that are wholly owned, 15 cultivation sites, 24 processing sites, 165,000 patients, and nearly 1,200 wholesale dispensary accounts. And Lucas, you are the marketing manager for the state of Maryland. Is that right?
Correct.
We're talking to a couple different dispensaries, but what exactly does Curaleaf do? I mean, you've got 4 right here in Maryland, 4, I guess they're wholly owned dispensaries. But what is your role in the medical marijuana industry in Maryland?
So Curaleaf in Maryland, we strive to be part of the communities that we put our dispensaries in and our operations. And we don't just want to come in as a company and just be here to provide to patients. We want to provide to the communities we're in. So we work with local law enforcement, local government when we come into the communities to help ensure that we're going to be a great addition to the community. We want them to know that we have the proper security on staff to make sure that everyone feels safe when they're coming to our dispensaries, and that our additions to the community is a safe addition to the community. We as an organization work with local charities and local organizations to give back to the communities that we're in, because we believe that we're more than just a company selling cannabis. We are a company to bring light to the cannabis industry and really provide a better experience for everyone involved. So we really want to just show people that we are here for the communities that we belong to. I mean, we have done donation drives for different organizations within the state of Maryland. We've done school collection drives to collect school supplies for schools in our communities. We do community cleanups to make sure that our communities are clean. And we have also worked with the American Cancer Society to raise funds for the Central Maryland chapter of Making Strides for breast cancer. So
I'll tell you mentioned about shining a light on cannabis. And I mean, certainly Caroline's organization with the National Cannabis Festival is on the 18th at RFK Stadium grounds.
It's true.
Is doing such a great job with, as well as the policy summit that's going to happen on Friday the 17th. One of the things that I find, and we're based in Annapolis, Maryland, and what we found was that a lot of the politicians are, I'm not even going to apologize for this, are just plain ignorant when it comes to cannabis or medical marijuana, whatever you want to call it. I mean, obviously in Maryland right now, we're not in a recreational use. Did you find it hard to integrate into the communities? I mean, we've got one alderman who is absolutely convinced that this cannabis dispensary that's opening up is just going to be the place where all of the druggies and all of the miscreants of society go to hang out. And I know for a fact that that's not the truth. But did you guys have a tough time when you opened up? Because, I mean, it is a new industry.
I don't think we had a tough time. We really, as I said, we really like to work with the local governments that we are and local law enforcement of the communities that we're going into, just so that we can ensure that we're there to provide medical cannabis to patients and patients only. We do our best to continue to work with them. We work with the local Chamber of Commerce's to introduce ourselves to organizations around us so that they know that we're a trustworthy source where patients can come to get their medicine and be in a safe environment when doing so. So I don't think we've had a tough time with that. I think it's just working with those organizations to make sure that they know we're joining the communities for the right reasons.
Well, and certainly I know in Maryland it's very heavily regulated, as it is pretty much everywhere. So, I mean, there's very little room for the I want to say error, or for, the miscreants and the fears that some people have to materialize there. What is the typical experience of somebody that's coming into one of your dispensaries here in Maryland? I mean, who is your customer and what is their experience when they come in?
So in Maryland, Curaleaf has a wide array of customers. We serve customers who have caregivers who come in for them. We have parents who come in for their children that use medical cannabis for their ailments. And we strive at Curaleaf to just make sure every patient that visits our dispensary gets the same experience. We take a hands-on approach where patients get to interact with our staff, ask questions, gain knowledge, and hopefully leave our dispensaries with the products that they're looking for. We extensively train our bud tenders to have the proper knowledge when it comes to the Maryland Medical Cannabis Program, as well as provide continuous cannabis and product education so they can answer questions our patients might have. I mean, it's important that patients are able to ask the questions and feel like they're able to ask them without judgment or concern. It's supposed to be a safe place where patients can come to get medicine, and we strive to do that at Curaleaf.
And I think that's what's so interesting about the cannabis industry, and especially, in DC, Maryland right now. These businesses aren't just being asked to open doors to do business. They're providing education, information. I'm sure, Lucas, that some of your bud tenders have relationships with a lot of the customers that come in. So this is, really is when Lucas is talking about Curaleaf really being part of the community as a dispensary, because you're serving patients, helping caregivers, helping parents, it is true. You have to get in there and really be part of the community.
Well, I sort of see it as a cross between a doctor and a pharmacy and a pharmacist,
right,
that knows exactly what's going on. I know that there is a dispensary in Edgewater, Maryland, that is constantly having a family day, and it's sort of like a festival type of a thing. And obviously that's a market. Let's be real. It's a marketing ploy to get people there and everything else, but as well. But I mean, it is a family event. And one thing which I think is really neat is because they have an extra large parking lot, which they don't have this rush of people coming in.
Right.
They loan that out to a community farmers market that sits there and they're selling, not bananas.
That's such a cool idea, though.
We're not in that.
What a great way to get into the community that way. Yeah.
But and that's 3 days a week. There's a farmers market there, and it's not a big one, but it's they've got people that are selling from the farms and the vegetables, and they've got meats and baked goods and stuff like that, which I thought is just really very cool.
Also very strategic, selling all of that food in front of a dispensary. Not a bad idea. I know that for some of the dispensaries that I visit and the managers that I talk to, and I bet this might be true for you, Lucas, some of their older patients. There's a story about this one veteran that goes in to one of the DC dispensaries, and she goes in every single day. She could go in once a week and get everything she needs, but that dispensary is part of her family. So she goes in and talks to the bud tenders, checks in with the receptionist, and every day she leaves with one pre-roll, apparently. And she goes home and enjoys her pre-roll and shows back up at the same time the next day.
That's cool. That is really neat. I mean, she's made a friend. Lucas, what is the experience? I mean, how do I've got a medical marijuana card, and I come into Curaleaf. Walk me through the procedure. I mean, and what does a bud tender do? I mean, are they actually creating a mixture or determining what type of marijuana or what blend that you may need for whatever the ailment you're looking to?
So when you come into a dispensary in Maryland, kind of the first thing you have to do is you have to check in, and there's separation between check-in and the dispensary floor, but you have to sign the Maryland attestation form, which just covers everything that the MMCC requires of a patient to say they won't do with their cannabis, because as medicine is, it's for a specific person. So they have to go through that process. We log them into our system and log them in with their MMCC card, and then our bud tenders take them in. They will take them around the dispensary, look at the different strains that are available in flower. As you know, there's tons of different ways to medicate with cannabis. You have flower, you have vape cartridges, you have tinctures, edibles, and some people find success with different forms of that cannabis medication. Our bud tenders are obviously not doctors. We can't tell a patient that a product is good for a certain ailment. We try to provide them with information based on the products that could help them, but we just like to have a conversation with our patients to make sure that everything that we're doing for them is getting them the most for, I want to say, their dollar. as we all know, everyone's dollar is important to them. Everyone's medicine is important to them. So we want to make sure that at our dispensaries, we're providing them the education so that they can learn and understand what's going to help them for what they're hoping to treat by using medical cannabis.
Makes sense. Now, as we sort of wrap up with you here, would you say that, I mean, right now, obviously, it is still illegal on a federal level, which means that you're not able to get any kind of prescription reimbursement for medical marijuana.
And no scientific testing. So these bud tenders, doing the best they can with what they have.
Right. But when this comes out to legalized across America, and it's happening, it's going to happen. I just don't know when, but is that going to be like the explosion for the cannabis industry?
Yes, absolutely. I think when the stigma and when people feel like by accessing cannabis, they're not doing something criminal, we'll have a lot more people interested in learning about the plant and learning about the medicine. And then I think when you have brands like Curaleaf, who already have such a presence in the United States, those are going to be the trusted brands that a lot of people look to because they'll have a friend who's been to a Curaleaf or they'll have seen a sign on the highway. So it's going to be an exciting time.
It is. And one thing that really kind of excites me, Caroline, is that we're talking about a product that is not overly harmful. I mean, this is not like, okay, well, let's mix up some oxy and some fentanyl and stuff like that and whoops, sorry, you died. This is something that, you can play around with a little bit. Okay, yes, as you said, Lucas, this is somebody says, hey, the edible really works well for me. To control whether it's the pain from cancer or whether it's anxiety or PTSD or whatever it may be. And there's a myriad of things that it can treat. It may be that's exactly it. It may be a gummy bear for a child that's suffering from cancer versus that veteran that you mentioned that is, maybe just wants to smoke a joint every
a
night.
day, yeah.
Yeah, we're just at the tip of this, and it's an exciting time for the cannabis industry in America.
It is. It's a really exciting time for us, and it's really great to have companies like Curaleaf starting to be here on the East Coast, bringing the knowledge that they have from all of their other operations across the United States and providing a really trustworthy source of medicine for patients in our area.
Curaleaf is going to be at the National Cannabis Festival on the 18th of April.
Absolutely.
And will not be selling because that's a big no-no in D.C.
Correct.
But you'll be down here and you'll have a tent, I suppose, that you can stop by and say hello to Lucas and get all your questions answered.
Hopefully they'll be signing a lot of Maryland patients up or giving them information on how to sign up.
What is the process of signing up? If I think that cannabis can help me with, my stress or whatever it may be, what's the process?
So in the state of Maryland, the process to sign up to become a medical cannabis patient, you have to go through the process with the MMCC. So you go and you sign up via the MMCC website. You fill out all the information. You have to provide essentially what is a passport photo, and you pay $50 for that application fee. So the MMCC then goes through those applications. If you've submitted everything correctly and your picture is proper, they will provide you with a number and a temporary ID, and then you can go to a approved physician that's approved by the MMCC, and you can then discuss with that physician your need for medical cannabis. If the physician sees fit, they can give you your certification and you can go into a dispensary and purchase. But that certification comes from the physician, so you have to go do that before you can go to a dispensary. And then typically you get your card from the MMCC in the mail shortly thereafter. They do currently allow you to go in with your state ID and your certification and temporary ID and visit a dispensary until you get your card.
I think that's a great way to do it because, it does really sort of establish Curaleaf as a member of the community, as a viable business. No, you're not hanging out behind the corner of the, of the local drugstore saying, hey, look what I got. Now, where exactly are your 4 locations in Maryland?
So we have a location in Reisterstown, Maryland. We have 2 in Gaithersburg, Maryland. And then we have 1 in Tacoma Park.
So the best way to check you guys out is at your website, which is mdcuraleaf.com, right?
md.curaleaf.com.
And that is Curaleaf. just in case it doesn't come
Correct.
through when we say it. Lucas Hale, thank you very much for your time this morning. I look forward to meeting you on the 18th at the National Cannabis Festival.
Or maybe at one of the locations.
Same to you.
That is true.
Have a great day.
Very true.
Hello,
Hey, is this Warren?
this is Warren speaking.
Hey, Warren, this is John, and I've got Caroline on the phone from the National
Warren.
Cannabis Festival.
Hi, Warren.
Hello, Caroline. How you doing?
Great.
This is Warren Lemley, who is the president of Peake Relief, and that's PeakeReleaf. And that's the problem with the cannabis industry. You guys come up with all these great names, but they don't sound really well on the podcast. And people are like, how do you spell that?
But at least they're really punny. We're the punniest people you know.
I'm going to give you that. Warren, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, John.
Where is Peake Relief?
So Peake Releaf is located right down in Rockville. We are right off of Rockville Pike. The actual location is right off of Twinbrook and Chapman Avenue.
You are strictly a dispensary here in Maryland, correct?
Correct. We are independently owned and operated dispensary here in Maryland.
Is that a big thing now that the dispensaries are getting into this big corporate thing as opposed to independently? And I know you said independently owned. I know I spoke with, of all things, a funeral home, and their big thing was all about, no, we are one of the few independently owned, not this giant, there's probably about 4 different funeral home corporations that do it. Is that a big thing for the cannabis industry to be independently owned?
Nowadays, it's looking more and more that way. There was actually some legislation that was passed last year, actually maybe the year before, that actually allowed the dispensaries, a lot of people to own up to 4 different dispensaries. And so what ended up happening is a lot of the larger national companies and multi-state operators ended up picking up a couple more dispensary licenses. So more and more, and this is something that you're seeing kind of across the country right now, there's a little bit of conglomeration in the industry. It's one thing that we're really proud of. One of the things that we kind of hold dear to our heart and kind of gives us that, additional capacity, kind of maintain our patient focus and, focus a little bit more on advocacy and kind of be a little bit more nimble to react with what we see in the industry.
I mean, that takes a lot of grit and determination to be an independent operator and come into this industry. It's not easy. So congratulations.
Yeah. Well, how did you get into the industry?
It's just one of those stories. I actually have been an advocate my whole life. I actually grew up in Rockville and, being right outside of DC, there's all these opportunities to go down for a lot of these, National Cannabis Festivals, perfect example, it's a place where, DC provides this opportunity for people to go and actually, gather and, participate in things that they are, passionate about. And so, basically since I have been fresh out of high school, I would go down and participate in some of the more bigger events that they'd have down in DC. It's just one of the things I've always been passionate about. And when given the opportunity, I saw that this legislation was passing in Maryland and they were given these opportunities. I knew that I had some really close friends. My 2 business partners I've actually known for over 15 years. I knew they were working in the industry out there. And I said, hey guys, I think we might be able to do something. How do you feel about coming back to Maryland and starting up our own operation?
I mean, that's amazing. Like, I grew up in Maryland too, and I remember hearing about your dispensary opening and really having to stare at the words Rockville dispensary, because in high school, like Montgomery County or Virginia, that was
A little puckered up.
If you're looking to get in trouble, just cross the line. So it's really, really exciting to see this medicine being available to people in Rockville.
Now, how long have you guys been open?
So we have almost been open for 2 years now. We opened right in the beginning of May back in 2017, I believe. Is it? Yeah.
It all blends. It's like, how old are your kids? You have no idea.
No, trust me. Actually, no. I think I actually moved in 2018. Now I'm thinking about it. I mean, it gets a little bit more complicated because you got to keep in mind that the application process, we applied, I think, back in, it's like 2016, 2015. I think we started on this. So it's been a really long journey, back when the first applications were submitted. And then, the state notoriously took a really long time to actually sort through all the different applications and actually award the licenses. So, it's been a labor of love, and we kind of had this mantra around here that was kind of like hurry up and wait. You gotta really struggle to try to get everything and all the pieces together to get the applications in and everything, and then you're just kind of sitting there twiddling your thumbs, hoping to hear the good news. So we applied in October, and then we didn't actually end up finding out that we got the license until December of the next year.
Wow, has that hangover worn off yet? That process.
Well, it's one of those things where I am it's not lost on me that it's amazing that I get to participate in something that I love and really get to have a hand in affecting the community and bringing people a better quality of life and really providing the patient experience that we want people to have. That was something that was infinitely important to me and my two other business partners, because we wanted to create the medical cannabis dispensary that we would want to come visit. And it's a really unique opportunity to kind of build this culture of what we want Peake Releaf to be. And luckily enough, it's been something that's resonated really well with our local patient base. And, it's one thing that we're really proud of.
It's funny, you mentioned that being part of the community, and when we spoke with Lucas Hale from Curaleaf, I mean, he said that was also a big thing, that, you can't come into a community and just hang a shingle out, wait 3 years, and then say, hey, we're selling cannabis. And you really got to be a part of that. And it sounds like you've got the passion for the industry and the passion for the community as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that we're really actually proud of. It's not been lost on us, that love of advocacy is not something that we've actually stopped. We've actually really stepped up our game. We participated. We were actually recently a sponsor for the Maryland Cannabis Policy Conference, actually down in Annapolis. And, that was put on by Normal Marijuana, Maryland Marijuana Justice, Marijuana Policy Project, and the Criminal Justice Policy Foundation here in Maryland. And, they're going down there and they're really trying to, make some changes that are going to be important, in my opinion, to, not only the patients here in Maryland, but just the general population is going to have a, real potential changes on social justice. They're trying to raise the amount of, marijuana that anyone would be able to hold from 10 grams to 1 ounce, just because, we are still seeing a lot of, populations disproportionately affected by the war on drugs and obviously the criminalization of marijuana. And so it's one of the things that, not only is it important for us to really respect this as a medicine, because it is, and I don't want that to get lost, but it's also important to really see that, this has been something that's been affecting many communities for a long time. And that's something that I personally really want to see change.
Well, that's a really important point too. I mean, I think that when you're reading Forbes or whatever headline in the news and you hear about people making money hand over fist in the cannabis industry, something that we've tried to do through National Cannabis Festival is create a platform for businesses to be reminded that we have to keep supporting advocacy events and advocacy organizations. So it's really wonderful to know that Peake Releaf not only was basically born in our Maryland community, but they're reinvesting in that community by ensuring that we have a more educated population here.
Yeah, I mean, the education is so critical, though, and there's just so many people with and you call it a stigma. I don't know whether it's a stigma, but I tend to think it's more ignorance than.
It's like reprogramming. I mean, I grew up in, dare to keep kids off drugs, and cannabis is your first step into a life of who knows what.
Birth is your first step into a life of whatever. Okay. That's where it all starts.
Right.
It all goes downhill from there.
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean, I love that all of the dispensaries that have opened up that I've seen in Maryland have jumped into the community, that are not just there to sell drugs, this evil
right.
thing. I mean, and you have consistently referred to this, Warren, as, get the medicine that these people need and the help that these people need, which is laudable and exactly what's happening here.
Yeah, no, I was just, it's a very interesting perspective, being in the dispensary and actually seeing the patients that come in and hearing their stories. Because it's, obviously this is a medicine that, really affects people's lives and gives them a better quality of life. But so so more often do I find these bigger parts of the story that, it might be a husband that's, been suffering from chronic pain for a long time, and they've been having to utilize opioids to be able to kind of combat their chronic pain. And they come in and they tell me these stories of, hey, this medical cannabis has been so great to me in treating my pain, and it's made my quality of life so much better. But they also have these stories where they say, not only that, my wife likes me again. we're spending time together. You know what I mean? We're having more productive conversations. We're going places because people aren't necessarily stuck in this kind of loop that the opioid treatment has kind of put certain populations in, and it gives people another option if they're looking to be able to treat themselves in a different and more holistic manner.
That explains why I saw those divorce lawyers carrying the signs saying criminalize marijuana, putting them out of business there. But, what is one of the stories? I mean, you say you talk to the patients and you've got the stories that they hear about how good it's done. Is there any story that you have seen from one of your patients that's just really, where it makes you go like, oh my God, this is what it's all about?
Well, one of the most powerful stories that I just heard recently is actually when I was in Annapolis for the conference that I just spoke about. There's a child there. He's a pediatric patient. His name is Connor. He's actually trying to get some legislation passed right now that would allow him to be able to utilize his medication even while he's in school. It's a struggle for him. He's a high school student, and he has some pretty severe conditions that actually affect how he digests food and everything like that. And he had this just really heart-wrenching story, in my opinion, that literally was in and out of the hospital for months at a time. He couldn't keep down food. He was on a feeding tube, and he literally was, struggling to stay alive and had very little quality of life, and kind of this age-old story. And I kind of wish it would start to change a little bit more, but as a last-ditch effort, they said, hey, let's try medical cannabis. And he ended up becoming a patient. And literally within the last year, he said that he went from about 75 pounds to about 130 pounds. He literally gained a foot in height. Now he went from missing like 120 plus days in school the previous year to now I think he's missed 12 due to, some different medical, operations and things that he needed to kind of go and visit for. So, it's such a powerful story of, what this can actually do. And, this is a 15-year-old teenager, and to really understand that he had no quality of life. And I mean, look what it has done for him now. He's having this, his entire life has changed. And, to hear, someone his age with his struggles personally talk about it so passionately was incredibly powerful. So
I wish that our governor in Maryland, who is a cancer survivor, he has a unique position where he's chairman of the Association of Governors across the country. And I really wish that he would take a little bit more of a leadership role in pushing this here. Okay. I mean, you may not be able to push, Capitol on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., but if you turn around and you get these states that are not looking at, let's start with medical cannabis as opposed to recreational use. If you all of a sudden get 50 states that are passing laws, or even if you get 40 states that are passing laws saying, hey, this is helping our citizens, this is helping our residents, this is helping our people, then Washington is really going to start to listen, I would think.
I mean, that's the hope. I mean, I've gone down and, as I mentioned, I, participate with, they have normal lobby day here in Maryland, and I go down and I actually speak with our legislators and stuff like that on some of the different legislation coming through. But I've actually gone down the last 3 years to the national lobby day and kind of speak with our federal legislators on the same issues, trying to see if we can get some change on a multitude of issues. Sadly, as we all know, there's still a lot of obstacles that people like to kind of fall back on. They try to say, hey, there's not enough research, we need to have more, but then we have these obstacles that it being a Schedule I drug, and all these different things that prevent people from actually conducting the research that are going to be making these legislators more comfortable. So luckily, we're seeing a little bit more research being done these days. They've started to kind of take down some of these obstacles, but it can be. It's just you got to keep working at it. You can't get disheartened about the struggles and the obstacles. You just got to kind of keep pushing through, and hope that we can kind of guide this the whole topic, this industry, into a better direction.
Well, I've got to say, it's only up from here. I mean, we've come from a situation where I'll cite Baltimore City as, any kid that's caught with a joint is doing jail time.
Right.
And unfortunately, if it's any black kid with a joint, he's probably doing much
Double
more
the jail time. Yeah.
And we're getting it. I mean, we've got a state's attorney in Baltimore that's vacating these judgments and doing that. And you've got, I mean, the old way of looking at this really ruined a generation. To be able to do this. I mean, you get these people aren't able to get jobs because they've got this record. People look at them and
can't vote.
This is just, they're so far reaching and it's so much. The time is now to change it.
Absolutely.
No, yeah, I agree, Ed. I'm glad you brought that up because, one of the big topics when we were down there in Annapolis was they have a bill right now that's going to be calling for the automatic expungement of simple marijuana possession. And I think that, that's important because, even though there might be expungement opportunities, certain people don't go out and take advantage of those, but if it's something that we can actually pass that makes these expungements become automatic, then all of a sudden these people, don't have to worry about listing that they have a prior conviction when they're trying to get a job or they're trying to find housing or they're trying to get into a school. I mean, the amount that can impact, someone's life throughout their longevity is just, it's amazing. And I think that's also why it's important for us to really try to see what we can do as an industry to really provide opportunities to these different communities that might have been disproportionately affected. My director of marketing just went down to an event called Candy Gather, and it represents community and trying to bring social equity and diversity and minority business ownership into this industry and kind of provide opportunities to those communities that have been affected by this. And it's something important to me because and this last application process that Maryland just had, before it, the applications were due, I actually had an opportunity to speak at Howard University in front of one of their business classes and kind of just speak to them about the cannabis industry and, the opportunities within the industry, but also the opportunities in the ancillary companies that are necessary to operate at a high level in this industry. And, it's one of those things that I hope that, people see the opportunities that are there. And I hope that we can get more people involved in this industry. And kind of, like I said, for me, it's just making sure that we can kind of make this industry head in the right direction. And, I'm hoping to be able to be a small part in that.
Well, I think you've been more than a small part. I think you've been a pretty large voice, certainly in Annapolis. On the phone with us is Warren Lemley, who is the president and CEO and founder of Peake Releaf in Rockville. He went out to Colorado and he did come back to Rockville. Take that, REM. And your website is PeakeReleaf.com, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it's Peake with an E on the end of it and Releaf like you're redoing the leaf.
Correct. Yeah, this leaf can bring a lot of relief, and as Caroline so graciously put in there earlier, we can't help but be a little punny from time to time in this industry. So,
Fantastic. Well, you're going to be down here for the National Cannabis Festival on April 18th down at RFK.
Yep, we'll be having a table and booth. We'll be there. We'll be answering questions, handing out some swag and things of that nature, and talking to the people about cannabis. And one thing that's really important to us is to really look at the history. And it's I don't want cannabis culture to get lost in this either. So that's an important aspect of this. And so I'm happy that National Cannabis Festival is given the opportunity for this kind of DMV event to have everyone kind of pull together and kind of show their love and appreciation of cannabis. And don't get me wrong, kind of my old high school days. I'm pretty excited to see Method Man and Redman and Andy Ballas as well. But, that's just an added perk.
Well, and a lot of the nonprofit advocacy groups that Warren mentioned will be participating at the festival as well, including Maryland Normal, which is a great resource for anybody who lives in Maryland and is interested in learning more about what's currently happening with Maryland cannabis laws. So definitely check out Maryland Normal and obviously come and visit Peake Releaf at NCF.
Warren Lemley, thank you very much for your time this morning.
All right. Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
It's interesting to get two perspectives out of the big corporate button-down Curaleaf and the, hey, this is so cool. I'm living my dream at Peake Releaf.
It's exciting to know that in Maryland, there's space and opportunities for both of those companies to exist. It's great.
It was funny. I was thinking a little bit about what we had said when we were talking earlier, and you said how there's a space at the festival for everybody. And you spoke about the seniors tent and the veterans tent. Kids, stay home. You're not allowed. But you've got to be 21 and over. But there is a space for everybody. And you said the people get in line and make friends and so on and so forth. And it very much, and I made a joke about it being like a Dead show of the 80s, and it very much is, because I've been to several Dead shows. I mean, I wasn't a Deadhead that followed them all around, but it was so amazing to be able to see a 70-year-old man maybe dancing with his wife, has his 30-year-old kid, and they're like 6-year-old little kid, and they're all grooving to the Dead.
Right.
It shows there's no age boundaries there. There's no color boundaries. There's no gender boundaries, there's no ethnicity boundaries or anything like that.
And NCF has that feeling. And I mean, like Lucas and Warren said earlier, what we've heard them talking about is community, community, community. NCF is a great place to meet our East Coast cannabis community.
Well, go meet them at the National Cannabis Festival, April 18th, 2020 at the RFK Stadium grounds. Get your information, tickets, and sign up for the Policy Summit all at nationalcannabisfestival.com. And Caroline Phillips, thank you once again for our third year on this podcast, and I'm looking forward to another great festival this year. How many people do you expect?
We are looking at 25,000 people this year. It's really exciting.
Okay, let me step back 5 years ago. Did you ever think it would be this big?
No, I don't think I had thought 5 years down the line at all.
Let's just get through today.
Yeah, no, but from 5,000 to 25,000, we are very fortunate, and we're really looking forward to this year.
I think that sort of speaks to how the interest, the whole industry is starting to grow, and I think we're on the cusp.
We are. Who knows what we'll be talking about when we meet next year?
All right, nationalcannabisfestival.com. Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you.
This has been the Maryland Crabs Podcast with Tim Hamilton and John Fernay. Sure to follow them in all the regular places, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and online at themarylandcrabs.com. Take a moment to rate us on iTunes. Now, get the hell out of my kitchen. Seriously, go!
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.